Chapter 1. The Pastor. Date: July 20. I joined the defense of an outpost today. The hardest fight I've encountered this far. The infected just swarmed the area and was close to breach into the camp several times, but we managed to fend them off, for now. I doubt we can hold this outpost if they attack in that large of an amount again. The inhabitants managed to make a makeshift wall around the center of the area. The walls are thin and not too strong, but will most likely do for smaller hordes. We told them to either leave or make proper walls. Outside the outpost, there were several buildings surrounded by tall fences. They could easily dismantle them to support the walls and make them stronger. But the inhabitants was too afraid to leave, for anything except for some daring raids towards the pharmacy or hospital. We had arrived to the outpost around midday, after we encountered a merchant on the road, telling us about it. After all, where chaos and scared people existed, we could make a good amount of money. When we came to the outpost, the leader of the outpost acted pretty hostile. A pastor that until we mentioned our trade had the guards aim at us and was radiating hostility. Then, when he let us in, he was acting like it never happened. He was smiling towards us, acting all goody two-shoes. About 2 hours later, we noticed a lot of armed people running towards a narrow street. Shortly after, we heard gunshots and saw even more armed people who ran to different streets. We decided to help out and charge them for our service later. If they made a fuss about it, we had our ways of ensuring they gave us what we deserved. Don't judge me, after all, we're professionals. My friends were by my side the entire battle. We have started to work pretty well together and enjoy each other's company. So we decided to form our own mercenary group, instead of just working as individuals. Now, we all accept the same contracts, and hopefully it will be less risky for us all, as well as we can charge more for our service. Money is still accepted as currency, but we also accept goods such as ammo, gear or other things that people might consider valuable. How unlikely it might sound. Coming from me, consider what I just wrote. But I actually care more about my friends than I care about the money. Money can help you in a fight. Only the gun in your hand and your partner right next to you. When I worked as a mercenary before, I had always been playing solo. No connections to anyone else, no distractions. I guess it took an apocalypse for me to realize the value of comrades and unity, and not just fighting for myself and my pay. However I reached the rank of lieutenant, I have no idea. I mostly did jobs solo and never interacted too much with other mercs. Times when it was necessary to work in teams, I did what was needed. After a short rest, we gathered at a bar to share a good time, and one of them tried to hit on one of the other bar guests. I've never seen a woman give anyone such a hard punch right in the gut. Perhaps we should recruit her to our group. The poor fool was left gasping for air in the middle of the bar, with other guests being too scared of the defense to care or notice. I wonder how we could already have adapted to this new way of life. It had just been 3 months since the apocalypse, and I was sitting with a handful of oddly adapted persons, whom could easily shoot an infected without any second thoughts, while most others would freeze at the sight of an infected, or just run away in the opposite direction. After today's event, I actually think that my comrades are real friends, and that they are worth living for. I have found a reason to keep fighting and living. For my friends. Date: July 21st. Dawn. I could not sleep. I don't know why. The moaning from the streets, the thud from a watchman's makeshift spear when he stabs an infected, or just the sound of my neighbors making love. I can usually sleep in any situation, but not tonight. However, it does not bother me too much. I'm used to be up for days with barely any sleep. But in this environment, where one wrong step can result in my death, I'd rather sleep than stay up. Still, I went outside the outpost to raid some stores, apartments and even a hospital. Got some good stuff and got some junk. The citizens of the outpost is slowly becoming drug addicts. Morphine is cash around here. The nearby hospitals is almost drained of it. My friends and I are keeping a distance from it. We do not want to join the addiction and fade away in our minds. Still, we do keep a decent amount of it from our runs, and when we get it as payment for our work. The price will just keep rising when the demand is high and the hospitals are empty. I have worked for drug lords, but never used any form of drugs myself. I have seen the result of addiction, the desperation and anger if you try to get more but you can't. We felt bad for owning morphine, and to use it in trade. None of us was okay with drugs before the apocalypse, but we still needed the basic supplies to stay alive. Food, water, shelter and ammo for our guns. I actually managed to get several boxes of 556, just for one small vial of morphine. Evening. We might need to leave this outpost soon. The pastor in the town is getting more and more radical about who we should let in and who we should reject. Sure, we can't take in 1 million, but who is he to decide who is worthy of living in an outpost full of drug addicts and who's not? In other news, my merry mercenary gang has increased in numbers. From the beginning it was just me, Jack and Philip, but today we got 3 more. And yes, one of them is the girl who punched Philip right in the guts yesterday. She's a good fighter and shot, and know a lot about medicine. She had been a nurse for one of the local hospitals before the apocalypse, so she had been a great help while planning our loot trips since she told us where to look. We have been in this outpost for a while, but it's not until these 2 days I decided to write about what's happening around me. It makes me feel at peace with the chaos around me. I feel like the days are way longer than just 24 hours. So much going on, and we do so much. Earn a living. We probably have the biggest cash pile and morphine stack of all in this outpost. But we always give something back. We have been giving away cans with food to the hungry, and some clothes to them in need. But I've never seen myself as a humanitarian. But somehow, I enjoy seeing their smiles when I hand them a mystery can or a ragged pair of pants. I have no idea what to do until we leave this junky outpost. We won't do any more contracts. Instead, I have put the gang to scavenge food and water and other essential supplies for our trip to another outpost. The priest just left. He knocked at my door and came with an offer. Decide, Wolf. Protect the Lord's house and keep the trash away from our utopia, or face the consequences. I know that you and your friends worked for money. My loyal followers could use your help to turn away the filthy non-believers and undesired rats seeking refuge. If not, I can't guarantee your safety. After all, Wolf, you and your friends are murderers in the eyes of God, and I might forget to pray on your behalf. So I did what anyone would do if they were in the right mind. I smiled towards the pastor and gave him a fast and hard kick straight up his groin. Damn, that felt good. 2 of his followers jumped me the instant the pastor fell to the ground, but they were drugged out of their mind and the fight only lasted a few seconds until they staggered away. The priest must have taken me for a coward or an idiot if he thought we would be his execution squad. Non-believers and undesired. He only accepted those he felt he could manipulate or benefit from, just as he did with us. When we first arrived, he greeted us with several barrels aimed towards us, asking questions who we were and what we did. As soon as we informed him that we were mercenaries, the gate swung open and his followers stopped aiming towards us. I think we will have to leave the outpost sooner than I thought. The gang is on their way back, and I doubt the pastor will let my kick and answer go unnoticed. Date: July 22nd. That bastard of a pastor. I never imagined that they had that many followers in that small church. My friends had arrived just a few minutes after the pastor had left our building, and I gave them a summary of what had happened, and we decided to call it an early night and sleep in shifts. Jack woke us up at 9 in the morning. He had seen the priest gathering his followers by his church, handing out weapons and drugs like candy to his subjects. Armed with firearms and tools, the mob was walking towards us. We knew we had the upper hand since we were used to use our firearms, but it was still uncomfortable knowing that our upcoming battle would be against manipulated, brainwashed and drugged out people who was under the spell of the pastor. Cleo acted as our scout on the 2nd floor. She handles that rifle just as good as she could help us treat our wounds. With her on the roof, the rest of us took cover next to the windows. When we had been looking for a building to stay in, we had taken one facing a narrow road. so that any potential infected or robbers only would have had one direction to come from. Behind us was a larger apartment building with a ladder we could use if we had to pull back on the roof. However, as the pastor approaches, Xian, our young Asian guy who joined us together with Cleo, took his precious M60 and said, "I may be small, but with this in my hand, I look as dangerous as Rambo." But to tell the truth, he just looks like a small guy with a way too big weapon. We all think he might be compensating for something, but we won't tell him that. The pastor held some sort of a sermon to his followers, giving them all a shot of a drug cocktail to increase their performance. That was how we controlled them. With drugs, that's really low. Keeping them addicted so they would keep following him for more. I had been fighting jacked up enemies before, high on a variety of drugs to ignore any feelings and just had the feeling of immortality and rage. The followers started to shoot towards our holdout. Our concrete wall protected us from their handguns, but was getting eaten away by the assault rifles. They who just had tools or even homemade swords just stood behind, waiting for their turn to charge in. I heard Cleo firing a few rounds with a rifle. Then a few of the drugged followers fell to the ground. Apparently she knew what we had to do, even if we felt bad about it. As soon as one of the armed followers were killed, another one took their place and gun. Xian started shooting small bursts towards the attackers, trying to invoke fear and make them run away. I heard Jack shout something towards him. He most likely told him about the assumed result of the drug, because the next burst was dead on target instead of nearby. I do not know why no one else in the outpost except us and the followers did anything. It was just as their day continued as normal. We were shooting, they were shooting. Poor guards had to shoot the increasing numbers of infected that was drawn towards us due to all the darn shooting. It might sound like we fought for hours, but it was over after one mere hour. The followers that ran away were the only survivors. They and the pastor. The coward made his followers make a human shield to protect him, resulting in him under a pile of bodies. He cursed us, begged us, and even tried to bribe us to let him live. I never liked to take a life of a man who's unarmed. But he was no longer a man. This was a monster whose actions had resulted in the death of 35 civilians and ruined the life of hundreds. We are now resting in an old apartment. As soon as the priest was dead, we took our stuff and left. We packed up our van and drove away. Some attracts and infected, but after this adventure we had more stuff than we could carry over a long distance. So we had managed to get ourselves a van that worked. We would never return to that outpost. We did scavenge the 2 hospitals that still had some morphine and took it all. Yes, we took it all, but for one good cause. We knew that it would probably create a living hell in the outpost for a while, but maybe it would help them overcome their addiction and rebuild the outpost and make it safe as it should be. And we could always trade it away in the next settlement we're bound to find. We will probably rest here for the night. Jack got hit by a sharp piece of concrete in his arm, and I got a flesh wound on mine. But thanks to Cleo, we will be as good as new with a little rest. This has been a long day. I hope tomorrow will be shorter and less eventful. And that is the end of chapter 1 of The Mercenary.